period in history, and it's very different than anything else. So this is a 3D map of Europe. I'm going to make you guys smaller so you don't invade my screen. There you go. So this is Western Europe. And here, whoops, this is a satellite map of Belgium and Holland. Holland is the north. So you can see how flat it is. You know, they've reclaimed a lot of land. It's filled with dikes and canals, and so it's very, very flat. So previously, the area that we think as Holland, the Netherlands, or what would become the Dutch Republic, it was part of the Duchy of Burgundy. And the Duchy of Burgundy that you see in orange and yellow, it belonged to the French kingdom. So the Duke of Burgundy was a vassal of the King of France. So this was in 1467. Here you see this painting. This is Jean Vauquelin presenting his chronicles of Hainaut to Philip the Good. So Philip the Good was the Duke of Burgundy, and Jean Vauquelin was a writer and a translator in the court of Burgundy. So he wrote this book on the history of a province called Hainaut, which is now in Belgium. And here he's presenting his masterpiece to Philip the Good. 100 years later, what was then part of the Duchy of Burgundy now becomes part of the Habsburg Empire. It had been acquired by marriage, and it was held by the time by the Spanish crown. So everything in green is the Habsburg Empire or the Holy Roman Empire. And as Voltaire said, it was not very holy, it was not much of an empire. And so you can see why it did not last very long, because there's so much space between all the possessions. So they could not control it. But then the Habsburg Empire controlled this area, which is now Holland. This is the Holy Roman Empire, Maximilian II of Austria, and his wife, Infanta Maria of Spain. So now Spain, oh, hold on, I have to let two people in the room. Whoops. You admit. Sorry, guys, I'm admitting people. Whoop. So the crown of Austria and the Holy Roman Empire now is tied with Spain, and Spain is very Catholic. The artist that painted this is an Italian Renaissance artist. His name is Giuseppe Asimboldo, and he was born in 1527. I will digress a little bit. He's a famous artist. This is one of his paintings. Let me find the key. Whoop. It's taking a while because the image is a very, very high resolution. Mm-hmm. The image here is almost 150 megabytes. Wow. So I try to get very high resolution as much as I can. This is one of his famous pieces called Vertumnus. It's an oil painting. His work is very unique in the history of art. But I digress. This is a map of the Dutch Republic in the 17th century. So it was created in 1581. So the Dutch Republic was established after 7 provinces, Dutch provinces, revolted against Catholic Spain. And there was an 80 years independence war between the newly Protestant provinces, which were influenced by the teaching of Luther and Calvin against Catholic Spain. So the Dutch Republic was created in 1581 after its independence, and this was now a Protestant country. Whoop, whoop. So it's a period that reflected its new wealth from maritime commerce and weaving, as well as a very unique society. So the state was very small. It contained maybe 1.5 million inhabitants, but it controlled a worldwide network of seafaring trade routes. So through its trading company, like the Dutch East and West India Company, it established a Dutch colonial empire. So it was a small country, but it had a huge fleet of around 2,000 ships, initially larger than the fleets of England and France. This is a portrait of James Lancaster. He was the commander of the first East India Company in 1601. So you can see these weren't just traders, they were military men. These were dangerous voyages they were undertaking in places they did not know. This is a map of the trading region of the East India Company. And the cartographer is Nicholas Vischer, Dutch cartographer. This is a copper plate, it's a print on paper. So the income from the trade allowed the Dutch Republic to become one of the most prosperous nations in Europe, despite its very small size, because it had the monopoly of the Asian trade. So it had, before, the food was very bland, like you saw in the previous lecture, when you saw the peasants at a wedding, and the food was really boring. But from Asia, they would get pepper, clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, sugar, ginger, uh, spices that were previously unknown. So there's an area which is now Malaysia, Indonesia, the island of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. And this is an image of South Asian spices. Yeah. Things that absolutely did not exist in Europe. So it was very, very valuable. It cost a lot of money. One of the particularity of this period compared to other European paintings is the small amount of religious painting, because Dutch Calvinism and also Lutheran forbade religious painting in churches the same way that Islamic art forbids it. So here, this is iconoclast in church. An iconoclast is somebody that destroy the icons. So speaking of which, this is Martin Luther by a great German painter called Lucas Cranach the Elder. Luther was a German priest. He was born in 1483, and he was the founder of the Protestant movement. And even more intense was John Calvin, who was even more orthodox. He was a French theologian and Protestant reformer. So a lot of the Dutch Republic became Calvinist. This is an oil on panel from 1550. During this period, as I said, it's a very unique period. Enormous quantities of art were produced. It's been estimated that 1.3 million paintings were painted in 20 years after 1640. So the volume of production meant that prices were fairly low, except for the best artists. There was a hierarchy of painting genre. There were history painting being the first, even though it was hard to sell, as even Rembrandt found. Then there were portrait painting, there were genre painting, or scenes of everyday life. And then there was landscape, seascape, battle scene, cityscape, and all of these are going to reflect a very distinct society. So this is a guild of painters. This is Rembrandt. So he's one of the painter of this period. So, this period consists of mostly historical event of the past, but also biblical, mythological, others. So this is Rembrandt. He's considered one of the greatest artists in the history of art. He was born in 1606 in the town of Leyden. And that's a self-portrait. This is Rembrandt. This is the anatomy lesson.
Hmm.
Aristotle with a bust of Homer. This is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And this one is my favorite at Rembrandt. It's at the Rich Museum in Amsterdam. I found the colors absolutely extraordinary. It is so, simply put, it's very pretty. And I chose this unusual landscape by Rembrandt. It's a landscape with Parable of the Good Samaritan. It's lovely.
Yes.
So since I'm talking about the Dutch Republic, I'm showing you Rembrandt, so I feel I ought to show you Rubens, but I don't really like Rubens, but I'm So this is Rubens, this is Anna of Austria, Queen of France. Rubens was born in the town of Siegen in 1577, and his father became the legal advisor and the lover of Anna of Saxony, who was the wife of William I of Orange, sorry. So he had connection. He had a very large workshop in Antwerp, and he produced art in every of every nature. So he was an art dealer. He was knighted. He was a very prolific artist. So you can see how beautiful the clothes are, and yet the face is painted very naively. This one is a better painting of his. It's a portrait of a woman with a rosary. It is quite a beautiful painting. So he's capable of doing great work. Look at that thing around her neck. I wouldn't know how to call that a collar. Is just so delicately painted. This is portrait of a man. We believe he's an architect or geographer because of the tools in his hands. But I'm going to show you a piece, and you'll understand why I'm not crazy about Rubens. I rarely make fun of artists, but this is the creation of the Milky Way.
Okay.
I laugh every time I see the piece. But anyway, this is Rubens. This is a prettier piece. It's called Miracle of Saint Hubert, and it's painted with Jan Bruegel the Elder, the son of Peter Bruegel the Elder.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm starting with kind of historical pieces or mythological. This is the parable of the wheat and the tares. It's a Bible analogy. It has to do with bad weeds and wheat and good and evil. And this painter was born in the city of Gorinchem in 1566. And he studied in Paris, and he worked mostly on historical subject or landscape. And you can see the country life who is well represented in this piece. Oh. I mean, this is not my type of scene, but the painting is just absolutely incredible. The craft itself, it looks very modern. It looks kind of like the shadows of Dali. It's pretty amazing for this period in terms of technique. Same artist painted this really pretty piece of a vegetable seller. This is Joachim Wedwall. It's hard to pronounce a T after a W. He was born in the town of Utrecht in 1566, and he was a successful flax merchant and town councillor. Most of his work deal with mythological subject with a very strong erotic element. And his reputation, was widely known in the entire Holy Roman Empire. He's a great painter. Absolutely amazing, amazing painter. It feels so different than anything in the period. It's exquisite. This is the Judgment of Paris. It refers to an event that led to the Trojan War in Greek mythology. And this one, same artist, is Perseus releasing Androma. So it's based on a book by a Roman writer called Ovid. And Perseus, the son of Jupiter, falls in love with Andorra and he saves her from a sea monster. You see the sea monster in the
Yeah.
water? He painted this, Moses striking a rock. It's at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. This is a portrait of his wife. Isn't that cool when you find an artist has painted his wife? This is in 1601. Still with the very mythological, biblical. This is Hendrik Terbruggen. Is a follower of Caravaggio, so he painted mostly religious subject, but he was born in La Hague in 1588, but we know very, very little about it, but it is very well painted. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Anyway, it's another very happy Bible story, but the quality of the painting is extraordinary. So if you can bypass the very strong religious element, you can still admire his work. Look at this. Look how unique this is. Crucifixion with a Virgin. It's at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The color of the sky is so unique. It's so bleak.
Yeah.
And same artist, Hendrik Terbruggen, King David playing the harp. It's at the Warsaw Museum of Art. This is an artist called Gerard van Onhorst. He was a Dutch Golden Age painter, and he was born in the city of Utrecht in 1592. We know that he was very influenced also by Caravaggio and that he visited Italy and Rome. So the two people in the painting are Granida and Dai Filo, and they were lovers in a 1615 play by a Dutch writer called Peter Hooft. Same artist, Artemisia. Queen Artemisia in the 4th century BC of Halicarnassus in Asia Minor was said by ancient authors to have mourned her husband. He had died. So his name was Mausolus, so she built him as mausoleum. That's where the word comes from. And it became one of the 7 wonders of the world. And then, because she really loved her husband, she drank his ashes mixed with wine in order to become his living tomb and an example of virtue.
Uh-huh.
I know. A bit over the top, but it mattered to people. Same artist. This is a portrait of a lady called Margareta Maria de Rudera, her parents. It's an oil and canvas.
And was she an artist as well?
She was. She was. Good question. Oop. This is Danae, and the artist is Jacob van Loo. He's known for his biblical scene, and he was part of a very large family of painters. So Danae, the nude lady, was a princess in Greek mythology, and her father put in a chest adrift at sea with her son. but her son had been conceived by Zeus, and a fisherman saved them. So this is Jacob van Loo. He's the same subject, Danae by Rembrandt. Jacob van Loo painted this lovely painting. One of the things you're going to discover about the Dutch Republic is, once we pass the historical and biblical, you're going to really see what people look like. It's really a great portrait of an era. So you can see how people dress in a very sober manner because they were Protestant or even Calvinist. This painting is 14 feet. So there were a lot of militia during the 80 Years' War. So I'm going to show you a few portrait painting. They often influenced by Protestants. So, the portrait a little dull. They don't like to show emotion and things like that. But this artist was born in the city of Antwerp, and this is the militia company of District 11. Huge painting, and each person in this painting paid to be in the painting. That is what I believe, and I'll show you others. It was commonplace to do that. Same artist, Franz Hal. It's a portrait of Anita Hanneman, who was the owner of a large brewery. It's so quaint to see her clothes, because one can assume that she's being painted in the clothes that she chose. So there's meaning in all of that. This is a famous painting of Franz Hal. This is a portrait of William van Huthusen. He was a cloth merchant and the founder of the city of Holland. And what gives tension to the piece is that he's leaning in his chair. This painting I really love. This is Thomas de Keyser. It's a musician and his daughter. He was born in 1596, and he was the most famous artist until Rembrandt came. But this next one is an absolute masterpiece. It's a simple portrait of this man and his wife. Do you know how difficult it would do
Oh, that black.
to make black appear with depth and details?
Yeah.
There's something, the contrast against kind of the vague background is just so, it's a pretty amazing piece, I think, in terms of quality. This is Cornelius de Vos. And I show it to you because it's an unusual piece. This is the artist and his wife, Suzanne, and the children. He was born in Antwerp in 1584, and he was actually a collaborator of Rubens.
Huh.
So it's not a particularly great painting, but to see how people are dressed, it's very unique period.
And
Can you
the roof on the child.
Yes. Cornelius de Vos painted this lovely painting, Portrait of a Lady. See, she's got that thing we
Yeah,
just
the same. Yeah.
she's got that thing that kind of, maybe she's pregnant, I don't know. But it's very, very unique and had really incredible color. So this is 1545, I think. This is an artist called Isaac Lucius, Portrait of a Gentleman. And the same artist painted this exquisite painting, a portrait of Susana Real. Yo, Jesse, a portrait of Susana Real. Uh-huh. So we know that this artist was baptized in London in 1616, but that he was buried in Amsterdam in 1673. I love this painting. It is so delicate. So
That bracelet is just exquisite.
absolutely exquisite. Yeah. So this is another one. As I was telling you, people in the painting would pay. They didn't have photographs, so it makes sense that people would want to have an image of themselves. This is a banquet of the Crossbowmen Guild. And Bartholomeus van der Helst, the artist, was very well known for his elegant portraits. So he did a lot of work for the elite. He was born in 1613 in Harlem. I love this piece because it's not trying to to make people beautiful and stylize them. It really shows people how they really look. Don't they look like a happy couple? And this man was a very rich Dutch cloth merchant, and you can see his wife is quite younger than he is.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Whoops, sorry. Same artist. This is a portrait of Gertruida den du Belde. She was the wife of a 17th century naval commander. This one is lovely. This is Adam de Colon. This is Margaret Graham, Lady Napier. It's at the National Gallery of Scotland. She was the granddaughter of John Napier. And John Napier, as you all know, was the inventor of logarithm.
Oh.
So Adam de Colon was a Dutch Golden Age painter born in Antwerp in 1572, but he was active at the royal court in Scotland. John de Gretz, this is James I, King of Scotland, and also James VI of England. This is a Dutch painter that was active at the English royal court. He painted a lot of very famous people. This is an amazing portrait, I guess because of the clothes. It's the Baron of Monteagle and Burghley. That's what I think. People chose how they wish to be painted. It had to be. This is Daniel Mishten, Charles I of England. Exquisite clothing.
Yeah.
Daniel Mishten was born in the town of Delft, but he settled in London, and he became a court painter to James I and Charles I of England. So I'm going to show you different genres tonight. So now I'm going to show you a few portraits of children. So from the late 16th century, there was a Dutch tradition of child portraiture. As I said, a lot of paintings were produced, and often the child appears surrounded by toys and pens. So the primary aim of commissioning art painting of children was to record the child life, because life expectancy was exceedingly low. Maybe 1 out of 10 made it to 20 years old. So, the child mortality, most kids died before the age of 5. So this is the lace maker. It's very beautiful, is how it shows the simple inside of a home. This is an anonymous painting of 2 twins who died in infancy. And this is a painting of Anna von Popma. She was a nobleman's daughter in 1680. So it's very naive, but it's also very unique. This is a portrait of a girl that is 1 year old. So, they tended to make children look like adults.
Yeah.
But this is still a really cool
painting. Pet lion down there in the.
She's got what?
Got the pet lion down there in the corner?
It's a dog. It's a dog. But she's got that thing in her hand. You put a bowl. I forget the name of that thing.
A spoon.
This is Jan Steen, so this is more like genre scene, where painting show, scenes of everyday life. So this is the bowling game. It's really, really lovely because you can really see what the game was about. It looked a
Yeah,
little bit like bowling and pins, and so there were a lot of different type of genre painting. Peasant, tavern scene, women at work, scenes of villages, market scene. Horses, farm. There were lots of them. So I'm going to show you a few of them that I selected. This is Gerard ter Borch. He was born in 1670, and his work was later surpassed by Vermeer, but there's definitely a lot of similarities. This is the letter. And if you ladies ever feel faint, I have a recipe for you. It's called a glass of lemonade.
I'll remember that next time I'm fainting.
Another big subject in the Dutch Republic was cows, because cows were a symbol of wealth. So a lot of people painted cows. This is a maid milking a cow. It's painted in 1652, and it's at the Getty Center. This one of a cow is really amazing. This is Albert Cuyp. He was one of the leading Dutch golden period, born in 1620 in the town of Dordrecht. So he inherited a very large fortune, so he mostly painted landscape and maritime scene. This one of cow is really extraordinary. This is not like now where we look at photograph and you paint what you see. This is an exquisite painting of a bull. The artist is Paulus Potter. He is extraordinary artist. He died at 28 years old from tuberculosis. A great artist. So this is Peter de Hooch, The Visit. Again, you can see the type of scene that you expect from Vermeer.
Yeah.
But that was the genre. People like those type of scenes, and a lot of them were sold. I chose the same artist, Peter de Hooch. I chose this piece because you can see the interior. It's pretty amazing. You can see how she's opening the cupboard to give linen to the maid, but you can see the street in the background. The architecture
Yeah.
is quite fascinating to look at. Same artist, this is the maid servant. It's at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So let's get to Vermeer, because you have to see Vermeer, but don't worry, I won't show you too much Vermeer, just a few. This is a view
Oh,
of left. So Vermeer was a Dutch painter, and he specialized in domestic interior scene. So he was moderately successful during his lifetime because he worked very slowly. He used expensive pigment, but he's known for his masterly treatment of light in his work. So let's get this one over with. This is Girl with a Pearly Ring. Seen that, done that, right? Now this piece is
it is
amazing.
lovely.
This is The Art of Painting by Vermeer. It is so stunning. The map on the wall and the curtains in the foreground, the floor is absolutely exquisite.
Yeah.
So this is the artist at its canvas. This is one of my favorite pieces of Vermeer. This is the Astronomer. It's at Le Louvre in Paris. Isn't that the most subdued light?
Uh-huh.
Absolutely lovely. And it's kind of cool because that's probably the type of light they would get. They had very small windows because it was cold, and so light did not penetrate inside. This is Vermeer, woman writing a letter with her maid. The composition is brilliant. From Vermeer, we go to an artist called William van Mieritz. So this is definitely not my style. It's very corny and sappy, but the painting is extraordinary. The colors. So this artist was born in 1662 in Leiden. And so the story of Rinaldo and Armida, they were fictional lovers from a poem by an Italian Renaissance poet called Torquato Tasso, an Italian poet. The same artist painted this piece, which is absolutely lovely. This is the rare show. Some traveling salesperson is showing, and the children are in wonder. Isn't that beautiful? So this artist here was born in 1662. I'll show you a few landscape painting. This is landscape with David and Bathsheba. And the artist is Harry Met de Blaise. So they will do a lot of landscape painting with dew and the sea, the coast.
Yeah.
So this is the husband and wife in the Hebrew Bible. They were the parents of Solomon. That's the basic. But you can see the background is very similar to Joachim Patinier that you saw in the first lecture. This one I like, and you have to imagine that he must have aged quite a bit. But it's a fantastic painting. It's an amazing painting. And I got you a close-up. You see the castle in the middle?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, wow.
It's just a fantastic piece. So a very common theme for Bruegel and other people. This is Hendrik Averkamp, Winter Landscape with Skaters. He was born in Amsterdam in 1585, and he specialized in winter scene. And again, you could look at each person is doing something different or playing games, or you get a really good view of the Dutch society. They're not showing wealthy people, they're not showing the kings, they're showing what life was like. This is now the Dutch Republic. They are independent from Spain. Same artist, I seen. This is the Great
Oh,
Fire in London in 1675. In landscape, I found this lovely piece, and you have to imagine that it has faded, but it is quite magical. It's absolutely fantastic scenery. The next one I really, really love. This is a river view, a Dutch snow scene with skater by an artist called Jan Griffier. And the color is lovely. I absolutely love the way the buildings are done.
yeah.
It's just very, very precious. Now, this is a very different artist, and for some reason, he reminds me of Van Gogh. Uh, this is Art van der Neer. This is a river view by moonlight. And this artist was born in 1603. We barely know that he lived, and he died in pretty much obscurity. But this shows, it reminds me, yeah, of Van Gogh, the darkness, how poignant the scene is. Skating at the town of Sloten by an artist called Johan Bierstraten. He was born in 1622, and he mostly did cityscape and marine art. There's something very pretty about this one, a sandy road with a farmhouse by Jan van Goyen, who was a prolific Dutch landscape painter born in 1596. See, this is very, very fantastic, very influenced by the work of Joachim Patinier and later Peter Bruegel the Elder. Another very fantastic scene with greens and blue. This artist was born in Antwerp and mostly worked with uh, landscapes. This is another Tower of Babel. I
Oh, yeah.
showed you two, but by the same artist. This one, I have seen it projected on a wall that was I've seen it projected when it was 20 feet. This piece is unbelievable. If you saw it on a huge screen,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely incredible. Because it's very big. It's almost 9 feet piece. So you can see how all those fantastic land. These are from artists that live in Holland, which is completely flat. Another lovely landscape. This is Jacob van Ruysdael in roughly 1670. He was one of the best landscape painter of the Dutch Golden Age. It's quite exquisite of a painting. Now I'm going to show you a few elements of architecture. So just a quaint picture, interiors with ladies and cavaliers. But it shows you again how people were dressed, at least for occasion. So this artist was born in 1605. His name is Dirk van Dellen. But he painted this really curious piece. This is a family beside the tomb of William I. And it's very unusual. I mean, you have a portrait of the family next to a tomb of the William I, who was the Orange ruler. Isn't that quaint?
Yeah.
The
It's a very little contrast between the simplicity of the church and the
Yeah,
history.
you can see how sober the church is. The next one, again, I saw it projected on a big wall. This one is absolutely incredible. This is the Great Market in Harlem. The depth, the figures, the perspective, the ground is absolutely remarkable. This is Jerry Burkheide. He was known for his cityscape. This is the same artist. It's the New Rich Zitz Wall Canal. Isn't that cool? It feels like you can be there, in the 17th century in Holland. So this is Holland, so there's a lot of water scene. They have the East uh, Dutch Company, so they ruled the sea. So this is a view of the Maas River by Albert Kuip. So the Dutch Republic, relied on trade by sea. So that's how it became very wealthy. So it had naval war with England and France, but the country is crossed by rivers and canals. So of course, the subject of maritime painting was very popular. This artist, Albert Kuip, is one of the most famous painter of this generation. He came from a very wealthy family, and he mostly painted landscape, same artist. This is the Maas River at Dordrecht.
Oh.
I found this great piece
Mm.
of boats at sea. This one and the next one, ships in a storm. It's very cleverly done. It's not like again they're taking photograph of waves and they're totally making it up, completely making it up. And yet it's so realistic and gloomy and almost monochrome. Such a beautiful piece. So is this one. This is a Dutch
Yeah.
ship in a gale, in a storm. They make you feel like it's the sea, even though they're completely making up the way the wave behaves. This is a peaceful piece, a lot of dune scenes. This is a beach view. This artist was born in 1601, Simon de Vlieger. This is a Dutch merchant ship in a storm. This was by a German born painter, but he was one of the leading Dutch painter of maritime subject. Again, very gloomy and powerful. Definitely catches your attention. This one is unique. The colors, the contrast, and the realism are really wonderful. This is Ludolf Backhusen. Beautiful piece. This is William van Velde the Younger, Dutch ships in a calm sea. I'll just show you one more of boat before you get bored of boats. This one is the
Oh,
revolution in a gale. Isn't that lovely? So even though I don't like still life, I'm going to show you some really good still life. This is a vase of flower by Margarita Haverman. It's a woman, a rarity really, born in 1693 in the town of Breda. Breda is where Peter Bruegel, the elder, was born. And she was a flower painter, and only two of her works survive today. And she was quite celebrated in her age. She became she was admitted to the French Royal Academy in Paris. Isn't it sad that this woman, maybe she produced as many paintings as I did, and there's only two of her pieces that survive.
ooh.
This is William van Eyck's Still Life with Flowers. A lot of still life. As you see, I'm showing you different genre of painting of the era. So this artist lived in France and he served as a court painter to the Grand Duke of Tuscany in Italy. This one, hey, I'm not into oysters, but look at this painting, oil on panel. The realism is really fantastic. I also like this one, Still Life with Books. And Jan Leven, the artist, was a close contemporary of Rembrandt. He was born in the same town as Rembrandt, and he shared a studio with him for 5 years. Isn't that beautiful? This is a still life vase of flowers, painted in 1645 by Jan David de Heem. He became very, very famous, and he was barely able to keep up the demand of his work. I mean, this is extremely detailed. This is if I look at this, I'm thinking it would take me a year to paint that. Just maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I would estimate. Rachel Ruish, a woman that was born in The Hague in 1664. And one of the thing about her, about Rachel Ruish, she became extremely famous. She achieved international fame in her lifetime. And she had 10 children. And the last that I will show you tonight is this one, Roses, a forest floor with flowers.